Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo, and today, once again, we're going to be talking about zombies. More specifically, we're going to be talking about ZombiU and the port that was recently announced for the Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and PC that is simply going to be called Zombie with an I. Now, before we go ahead and actually talk about the port and my thoughts on it, what we know about it, I want to just say, I still love zombies. A lot of people feel like zombies was kind of a passing fad and it got really popular for a while in video games. But honestly, zombies have been around in video games for forever in one way or another. I mean, Resident Evil's been around for as long as I can remember. You know, the Dead Rising series has been around. We just always have had zombies in one way or another inside of our video games. I definitely can't say that I've ever actually become tired of a genre. Perhaps I've become tired of what is being developed for a genre and that I feel there's always room to grow and to go somewhere else. But I've never actually been tired of a genre, and I definitely don't want zombies to go away in the same way that I don't want dinosaurs to go away now that they're finally here. I don't want spaceships to go away now that they're finally here. And I sure as hell don't want UFOs and aliens to go away, because besides XCOM, we really don't have enough of those in video games. We definitely need some more of those. Somebody should get on that stat. Maybe another one of those Black Slate games, except one that actually doesn't suck. Regardless, we're here to talk about zombies, not all of those other crazy mythological and possibly real or not real things. And more specifically, we're here to talk about ZombiU. So ZombiU was a first-person, sort of semi-roguelike zombie survival game that was developed by Ubisoft and released on the Wii U around launch. It was a game that was taken many different ways by many different critics. A lot of people loved it, a lot of people hated it, and a lot of people just thought it was meh. I was kind of one of the people who was on the border of meh and loving it. It was one of the first games I picked up for my Wii U, and I was very excited by a lot of the ideas and concepts that have been shown off to us before the launch of the game. However, I was worried by the fact that just a year earlier, ZombiU wasn't even ZombiU. It was like Mutant Freaks from Space, which was a completely different game. In fact, it was a multiplayer-only game where one player controlled the gamepad while everyone else ran around in first person, basically being attacked by the person with the gamepad who was just spawning waves and waves of aliens. That somehow became ZombiU. So someone at Ubisoft, probably in the marketing department, realized that things like The Walking Dead were doing really well, and zombies were like this huge fad all of a sudden, and that simply wiping away everything they had done and worked on for who knows how long. I mean, I can't imagine what it had to be like being an artist, sitting at your desk, making frickin' aliens, and then the next day, you're being told to make zombies in environments in London. What a slap in the face that had to be. But hopefully they enjoyed their work nonetheless, because I do feel there's a lot of great art assets and a lot of great environmental design in ZombiU. It was one of my favorite parts of the game. It had really thick atmosphere. It was very much an old school zombie vibe. The same kind of vibe that I expected to get after seeing my very first zombie film, you know, which I can never remember the name of. Night of the Living Dead. Yeah, that's the one. That was probably the first ever zombie flick that I saw, long before I was old enough to recognize that zombies were actually a genre. Of course, since then we've had tons of zombie films to use as reference points for video games, but that's kind of the one that always comes to my mind, because in my brain, that was a really dark, blurry, sort of creepy film. Probably because I watched it like halfway under the covers with a pillow shoved over my head, and, you know, a lot of concern for what was behind me in the darkness. So, ZombiU always kind of captured that for me. It was one of my favorite parts of the game, and they also made really great use of the gamepad, forcing you to look inside of your backpack without being able to see what was around you, and doing a lot of the same things for, you know, breaking through doors and all the different components. Not only that, the zombies were badass in this game. In fact, they were a little too badass because their soft, mushy brains couldn't even be bashed in with a cricket bat. There was no sense of, like, actual aiming in this game. It was one of my biggest pet peeves with it. No matter how many times I tried to aim at the zombie's head, the cricket bat just really didn't aim for his head. Luckily, that was one of the many things that seems to be being fixed for the port of Zombie, which will be coming, actually, this August 18th, digital only, as I said, to the PC, the PlayStation 4, and the Xbox One. Now it is being developed by a completely different team, a team that has done ports in the past. So that kind of worries me, and then it kind of doesn't, because it's like, okay, you have the game, you're porting it, just fix the things that were broken, and kind of deliver what the game should have been in the first place. Which to me was You know, like I said, it was a game with great components. You had the gamepad implementations, which were all fantastic. Probably my favorite part of the game, though, was really the core mechanic, which is a permadeath mechanic. Essentially, you spawn as a random survivor inside of a prepper's safe house. He kind of gets you going, calls himself the prepper. He sounds slightly British, slightly SAS, and you go out, you do your thing, you collect weapons, you try and, you know, push your way through London, zombies and death everywhere. It's in quarantine. And then when you die, you drop your backpack, that character becomes a zombie, and you start as another random survivor once again inside of the prepper's safe house. You can then go out, kill that zombie, which was once you, and then resupply with the backpack and all of your gear. That was just a really cool mechanic, because by the end of the game, there's a good chance that you would have, you know, like, been and then killed like 50 or 60 different people. In fact, I think I was on like 30 survivors before I even ever finished the game. And there was just something really creepy and cool about that. There was also a really great implementation where some of those people that died could actually show up in your friend's single-player experience, which I just thought was awesome. If your friend actually knew that was your player anyways. It usually would shade your name. So there was some cool mechanics in the game, right? And it didn't really do anything else besides that. Like, I can't sit here and tell you that it had some really crazy mind-blowing mechanic. I mean, it was just, at its core, a very simple first-person zombie game. It didn't try and go above and beyond. It didn't try and do anything insane. It just tried to be sort of slow-paced, gritty, dark, and spooky. And I think it succeeded in all of those things, but as I said, I think it was held back by poor controls. The aiming was rough and sloppy. It always felt like there was this huge level of lag and delay, and it definitely wasn't because a cricket bat weighs 100 pounds. It was just because it wasn't implemented well with the gamepad. And I've played other first-person shooters, including Call of Duty on the Wii U, and that played great, so there wasn't really an excuse for that. It just needed to be fine-tuned. And also, the melee damage just felt incredibly inconsistent. These are all things that the developers have actually spoken out on. Ubisoft has spoken out on and said that they're looking to improve, along with a slew of other small details, when it launches this August 18th on PC, PS4, and Xbox One. Among that is updated visuals. They didn't really say too much about this. They're kind of just trying to update the game for the current gen. There's actually gameplay and some screenshots. It doesn't look amazing, but like I said, to me the game wasn't really about being beautiful. It was just about capturing that certain atmosphere, and it looks like it's still doing that. They're going to have a frame rate slider. That's basically what they've said. I hope there's a frame rate slider on all three platforms because it just makes sense. They're going to be improving the way that damage with melee weapons works. Thank you. They're also going to be adding a shovel. Such a random thing. Like, you launch a new game and you add a shovel. I don't get it. Like, is there some kind of inside joke there for zombie films, or are you just telling us you're going to add a shovel? I'm not quite sure what's going on with that one, but they're adding a shovel. Sadly, the game's multiplayer mode, which was actually kind of cool. Like I said, it took what they started with Mutant Freaks from Space and had one player locally spawning zombies while the other players just played in first person and tried to survive. That's not going to happen. Basically, they would have had to redesign all of that, and this just seems to be a port that they're making 3 years later. So there are a lot of other questions as to why this is existing. Did someone at Ubisoft really love this game that much, a CEO or an executive, and say that he really wanted to see this on his next-gen console or his PC? Or did they just say, hey, zombies are still kind of a thing, maybe we can grab some money on it? Either way, we don't have a price point in the game just yet. It is going to be digital only, as I said. I'm hoping they kind of keep it at a discount budget level, you know, 30, 40 bucks. Not saying that the game isn't worth full retail price, but considering the Wii U version of it costs $6, I think you kind of have to work with some sort of a budget, because that's the kind of logic that the people in the community are going to be using. They're going to look at the game and say, well, it's $6 on the Wii U, and I don't have a Wii U, but I don't want to pay $65 for it on a regular console. So hopefully they launch it around $30 to $40, especially considering it's going to be digital only. I think that's more than doable, and I will definitely check it out at that price. Like I said, it was a game that I actually really enjoyed. It just had some small annoyances that actually turned out to be really big annoyances, and those were the reasons that I never even finished it. So if this comes to PC, it has a great frame rate, it runs really well, it has all of those wonderful improvements to make it a fully functioning, you know, first-person zombie survival experience with a nice little story, I will totally play it. Now, you're going to lose out on all those gamepad functions, but they said they are maintaining some of the most important things, like the obscurity when you open up your backpack. You're still not going to be able to see around, and hopefully that will be maintained for all of the other uses that the gamepad had, because it added a lot of tension to the game. I'm actually kind of excited for it, and if I do pick it up, like I said, to me it's all about that price point. If it's 30 bucks, 40 bucks, I'll probably snag it. If they start asking full retail, Probably not, considering I can just play it on my Wii U. Or I could just buy a copy for $6 and play it on my Wii U, considering I don't have it anymore. But $30 price tag, I'll be there. I'll definitely play it on the channel, let you guys know what I think of it. I will probably be snagging it on the PC, so I'll be able to give you guys a little bit of an update as to whether or not it has any performance issues, how it runs, and whether some of the changes that they've made have made it a game worth playing here in 2015, 3 years after its original launch date. We'll see where Ubisoft's going with this one come August 18th. If you guys have any questions for me regarding the game, I did play it on the Wii U. I can tell you a little bit about it. If there's anything that I didn't talk about that you were curious about how the game worked, or, you know, some different elements of the game that I didn't talk about here, feel free to ask me down in the comment section below. And of course, share your thoughts on zombies. I'll never tire of zombies. I'll always tire of dull and boring and, you know, sort of tired out game design, like a lot of the asset flips that we keep seeing on Steam for survival games. But if you give me something good, it doesn't really matter what's in it, I'm definitely going to play it. Let me know all your thoughts and more down in the comment section below, and I will see you somewhere in a place where there's not zombies.